The Greyhill Incident is simply amazing. Amazing in the fact that it managed to take an inherently creepy concept and one that's often underutilised in the medium of video games, that being trapped within a small town in the dead of night during an alien invasion, and deliver a grotesque, half-baked mutant of a video game, making it a completely terrifying experience for all the wrong reasons. This game has a plethora of issues, ranging from terrible animation to poorly written dialogue.
Is this Kitty? My cat?
Like most of my university assignments, it's either been released unfinished or rushed to meet a deadline. To be honest, I was quite looking forward to playing this game after seeing the trailer, since for some strange reason I find the Greys to be incredibly spooky, never mind ghosts or ghouls. The Grey aliens are one of the most common representations of otherworldly beings in extraterrestrial folklore, and I couldn't think of anything worse than being gang-stalked through a cornfield at night by a group of these beady-eyed fuckers. The Greyhill Incident follows a man called Ryan as he attempts to save his son Henry, who has been abducted by aliens, encountering and assisting survivors along the way. Sounds like a good enough premise for a horror game, but don't you worry, they find a way to completely mess it up. The game begins with one of the roughest exchanges between characters I think I've ever seen. Not 30 seconds in, Ryan asks his son a load of bizarre questions, which I presume is to fill the player in with the events prior to the game, because that's how good writing works, apparently. Henry then fires back with a barrage of equally weird responses.
To the police, they'll just lock us up in a psych ward.
Dad, we need to get out of this cursed place. I hate this neighborhood hole.
Not long into the game, and it's already set the standard for how this game is written and acted, as to say that it's absolutely abysmal. The voice actors don't really deserve any heat, as they're probably doing their best with what they've been given, but the writing is so damn boring. It lacks any sort of cohesion and feels so disjointed. It's like whoever wrote the script had zero knowledge about how people interact or speak to one another. To add further injury to the 16-car pile-up this game calls a narrative, voice lines on occasion overlap, and it's so noticeable.
He locked the door and ran out of the roof. It's okay, he's gone now. But there was a strange light.
So what should be a tense moment is ruined because I'm too busy thinking about how someone tested this game before launch and said to themselves, I'm sure no one will notice how these multiple lines of dialogue overlap. No, not in a game that got a full console release. The shit-flavoured cherry on the steaming pile of crap has to be the animations, just to top it off nicely. I'm trying my best to be scared by the aliens, but I'm more afraid of this crackhead from the Uncanny Valley. The NPCs in this game act more like aliens than the actual spacemen. Speaking of the spacemen, after meeting with the aforementioned van-dwelling lunatic, the aliens finally appear. And credit where credit is due, the build-up to the aliens' arrival is pretty well done. If there's one thing this game gets right, it's the atmosphere. Earlier in the game, we're sent out to a shed to investigate why Max the dog is barking at the shed flanked by a cornfield. Grabbing the crowbar, we pry open the shed door only for it to be empty. Max then runs off into the cornfield as he disappears into the otherworldly light. Don't worry, he comes back at the end somehow. Ryan then heads inside only to be called out to the field to investigate what happened to a local farmer. It's here where the Greyhill Incident actually succeeds in creating a powerful atmosphere of unease as we wander through the foggy field, barely illuminated by the tractor's blinking headlights. We stumble upon the mutilated remains of a few cows before climbing into the tractor's cabin. Having a little look around, we find a tape recorder.
Brandon, this is Joe. They're trying to break into my tractor. I hope this message gets to you. Walkie-talkie connection broke. They're small and gray. Oh my god.
To be honest, I half expected a cheap jump scare once the tape had finished. Regardless if it was intentional or not, the fact that nothing happens and we're just allowed to sit there and drown in the anticipation is an extremely effective way of building tension. The anticipation is left on a high note as we make our way through the barn to a cornfield, without any nasty surprises. Ryan's son Henry is then abducted right before him. Powerless, Ryan rushes to Bob, who calmly ignores Ryan's pleas and asks him to go and find some nails so they can board up the house Henry was just abducted from.
I've already started to board up your place. This'll save us tonight. But Ryan, we have a little problem. I used up all the nails. This morning, I brought all my nails to the Creek family. Mr. Creek put them on the table in their house. You have to go get them. It's the first house on the left.
Stop me if I'm wrong, but isn't it a tad late for that? Einstein? What's even more insane is that Ryan just agrees to go and do a fetch quest while his son is probably being subjected to horrific experiments.
Right, I'll get him.
You have to
We
find a way in.
communicate by walkies from now on.
We're then allowed to go and explore the town of Greyhill, at least the parts that aren't blocked off by invisible walls. Flickering lanterns are left out to help us navigate, however they really don't help as most of the time the way forward is blocked off until you've done the thing the game wants you to do. Either way, I spent about 20 minutes of this game's hour-ish playtime just wandering around aimlessly.
Stop acting like you know the way ahead, like you know the rules. There are no rules, man. We're lost.
No.
We then find the house where the nails should be. The only problem is there's no one home. Well, no one who should be there. Failing the stealth mission, we're attacked by a lone invader. The initial fright wears off pretty quick and it soon devolves into comedy gold. I'm just going to let this fight play out so you can see for yourselves. I especially love the little bitch moan that they make when you wrap the bat around their heads. These guys are meant to be the creepy and intimidating antagonists of this game, yet they're presented in such a way that makes them look and act so goofy. I can't really get the comparison between these guys and the aliens from Scary Movie 3 out of my head.
I found it! Without their heads, they're powerless!
Please, no.
There are a few ways we can approach encounters. The first is with stealth. Unfortunately, the Greys have specced fully into perception so they can detect you far too well. They don't even have to be close. Hiding is also an option, but often or not you'll either run out of stamina or get found. The second option is to LARP as that autistic fella from Signs and swing away. However, Ryan swings at them with the force of a wet noodle, so it takes 3 hits to knock them down. That's if you get lucky enough to land 3 hits, as the alien's hitbox seems to be very unpredictable. And you better land those hits, otherwise you'll run out of stamina, leaving you open to an attack. Just as a side note, I love how ballsy these little guys are, power walking towards you like they aren't 4'11". It also kinda looks like they're trying to give you that Gork 3000 from outer space for scientific research, of course. Horny little bastards. The third and final option when in combat is to whip out the old 44 Magnum like you're an enemy stun user. It takes 2 bullets to put just one of them down. Ammo is understandably scarce for that reason, which I get. What I don't get is that you're wanting me to buy into the fact that ammo is scarce in a rural American farm town. Yeah, dream on, champ. Maybe it's just me, but I find it kind of funny that the Greys have presumably mastered travel at light speed to come pay us a visit, yet end up getting domed by a concealed carry. The rest of the game revolves around doing fetch quests and meeting a few survivors. We rescue a man who locked himself in a safe, help someone repair a biplane before reaching the church, where a priest is abducted.
Can we get much higher?
All of what I've just mentioned plays absolutely no role whatsoever in the overarching plot of this game. It's all so inconsequential and feels like it was just made up on the spot. The only character encounter that holds any weight is the one with the police officer, a pawn. The officer serves to further the plot as he gives us a phone number to call a mysterious man who might have some sort of solution to the whole abducted child issue that's been on the back burner till just now. He then succumbs to probing related injuries. The face this guy pulls as he shuffles off this mortal coil is fucking hilarious.
A pawn! Don't die, goddammit!
We've then got to repair the phone lines, dodging aliens before calling the stranger who tells us, and I shit you nay, to wrap ourselves in the tinfoil we have been collecting and let the aliens abduct us.
Wrap your entire body in the tinfoil. Completely cover yourself head to toe. and let them abduct you. I know this sounds crazy, but if you want your son back, you have to trust me.
Because that's a completely sane and believable strategy. Freshly wrapped in tinfoil like a leftover chicken, we then have to go and save this little annoying shit, who proceeds to run off, prolonging this snooze fest for about 10 more minutes. Eventually saving the kid from the barn, not Ryan's kid though, he's probably very much probed by now. In the last 5 minutes or so of this game, it seems like it's building towards a grand conclusion, boarding the ship and rescuing Henry alongside the other abductees. And then the devs clearly ran out of money as this game just ends so abruptly, on a limp dick cliffhanger. Ryan heads outside and gets abducted. We then cut to Bob driving down the highway alongside that annoying kid and Max the dog who materialised out of nowhere. In essence, the entire story of Greyhill Incident can be boiled down to this. Man's son is abducted. Man asks Crazy Man for help. Crazy Man tells not Crazy Man to go find nails. Man agrees to do side quests for an hour while his son is subjected to cruel experiments on board an alien spacecraft. Cop tells Man to collect tinfoil because aliens are allergic. Man then wraps himself in tinfoil and boards the ship while Crazy Man keeps an alien as a sex slave and drives to Mexico where that shit's probably legal. The end. They then have the cheek to break the fourth wall and essentially say, well, that's it. What's your favourite part? Like it's a kid's breakfast TV show. Then just to piss in your Cheerios a little bit more, they play this really annoying upbeat song during the credits, like this game was a life-changing experience or something. Fuck right off and give me my fucking money back. If this game retailed at a reasonable price in line with other indie horrors, it would still have been shit, albeit more palatable shit. Releasing this on console just for under premium price is fucking criminal. The only thing this game abducts is my time, my money, as well as any available brain cells. I'll pay the devs their dues. They seem to be trying to claw it back with a torrent of updates, but as far as I'm concerned, that's far too little, too late. I struggle to understand how this half-baked video game managed to get a full console release with a special edition version of this game. Just how? Who greenlit the final product? That's a mystery within itself and a truly terrifying one at that. So, lock your doors, board your windows, and do not get this video game under any circumstances.